For those of you who have been following along in the D&D tube space over the last year or so, you'll likely know that Bob of Bob World Builder and the brilliant folks at Evantier Games have been working on a project called Delve that aims to be the ultimate guide to dungeons for, you guessed it, Dungeons & Dragons. I mean, there is also a version for Shadowdark too. Anyway, Delve is absolutely loaded with content, from dozens of magical items and monsters, to traps and actual dungeons to run, as well as a whole bunch of new player options to choose from too. I got my copy a few days ago, and one of those player options really caught my eye, to the point that I think it genuinely might be one of my favorite subclasses I've ever read. And I don't just mean for Cleric or stuff not made by Wizards of the Coast. I truly mean, I think this looks like one of my favorite subclasses, period. The subclass is the Darkness Domain Cleric. Let's talk about it. I should emphasize that this video is not sponsored by Bob or Evantier Games or anyone for that matter. I made the choice to leave this video sponsor free to underscore that no one is making me say any of this. And I also did not receive a free copy of it either. I backed the project on Kickstarter just like everyone else. I just liked it so much that I really wanted to talk about it, and I did get permission from Bob to show off some of the screenshots though, so we're all good there. Hey, I'm getting so close to hitting 15,000 subscribers. If you'd like to help support me in getting there, it's free and helps a whole lot more than you think. Thanks. Firstly, let's start off with the description. For many, darkness represents danger and the unknown. But the clerics who tap into the darkness domain for their magic, darkness is a source of strength and comfort, overflowing with power, ready to be wielded by anyone brave enough to seek it. It's short, sweet, and to the point. No, we're not getting multiple paragraphs of detailed lore and backstory, but I don't really think it needs it either. From this description, we can gather that we're going to be able to wield darkness in some way and derive some power from it. Sick. I'm already bought in. I don't know if it's because I'm a 90s kid and never grew out of my early 2000s emo phase, but damn, throw darkness on just about anything, and I'm sold. Alright, the features. Our first level 3 feature is our Darkness Domain spells. Like every cleric, we get a set of spells that are always prepared for us when we reach certain levels with the class. As a Darkness Cleric, we get the following. At level 1, we get Bane and Sleep. At level 3, we get Blindness, Deafness, and fittingly, Darkness. At level 5, we get Fear and Slow. At level 7, we get Black Tentacles and Blight. And finally, at level 9, we get Dream and Dominate Person. Something to point out is that Delve is intended to be compatible with both 2014 and 2024 D&D, which is why we are seeing certain spells accessible from level 1, since that used to be when clerics got their subclass in 2014. Now, however, that isn't the case. So essentially it means at level 3, you'd get all of Bane, Sleep, Blindness, Deafness, and Darkness if you're using the 2024 rules. Anyway, these spells are both super flavorful and, for the most part, quite good. Bane is always great to have, and the 2024 version of Sleep has become significantly better than it used to be, since it's no longer based on the amount of hit points that a creature has. Blindness Deafness has some great utility, and also just feels so connected to the theme, as does Darkness, obviously. The weakest point on the spell list is definitely Blight. It's kind of poor for its cost in most situations, but again, it still feels so on brand with the subclass. The Darkness can just consume the plants and growth and prevent anything else from thriving there. Overall, this is a solid feature that provides good power, flexibility, and utility to the cleric, while also being extremely flavorful and thematic. Next up, and also at level 3, we get Dark Servant. This one provides us with 2 sub-features. Dark Sight, which allows us to see normally in both dim light and darkness, regardless of whether it is magical or non-magical to a distance of up to 60 feet. And Shadow Senses, which grants us advantage on our initiative rolls and perception checks while we are in dim light or darkness. Dark Sight providing the ability to see even through magical darkness is super clutch here. It's not uncommon to get hit with magical darkness and basically have no ways of getting around it outside of finding a way to dispel the magic itself. And thankfully, we also get the ability to see normally in dim light as well. Anyone who remembers Devil's Sight from 2014 would also likely know that, insanely, it did not, as written at least, provide dark vision, despite the fact that it granted vision while in magical darkness. This was quite a wild quirk of the ability that has since been changed with the 2024 rules, but it's great to see that the same mistake was not made here. It's also worth noting that this feature is not providing dark vision while in dim light. It specifically says you can see normally in dim light and darkness. This is in contrast to the normal rules for dark vision, which state that you can only discern colors as shades of gray. Now, admittedly, this is very likely an often forgotten about rule, but it is there and can have some implications during exploration. Then there's Shadow Senses, and this is just straight up good. Having advantage on initiative is always a very valuable thing to have. Increasing your probability at going first or going early in a round can help set up combos or allow you to get some plans moving with the rest of your party. It also works quite nicely with the new version of the Alert Origin feat, which lets you not only add your proficiency bonus to your initiative roll, but also allows you to switch it with another willing creature. This is kinda nuts, because now we're not just getting to roll our initiative with advantage, but we're also adding our proficiency bonus to that roll and can offer to swap it with anyone else in our team. Now, the caveat to this is that if you're using 2024 monsters, we are seeing so many of them get proficiency or even expertise in initiative, which is giving them some crazy modifiers. This can help to keep up with that to a large degree. The other thing that determines the usefulness of shadow senses is how frequently you're able to be in dim light or darkness, since if you aren't in it, then you essentially gain no benefit from the feature. If you're playing in a dungeon crawl type of adventure, there's a good chance that it's going to come up fairly frequently. But if you're not, it can feel pretty bad to have a dead feature most of the time, and that's kind of where our next and final third level feature, Grasping Darkness, comes into play. Grasping Darkness gives us another use for our channel divinity. It allows us, as a magic action, to conjure shadows in a 30-foot radius around us. This lasts until the end of our next turn, and turns dim light to darkness and bright light into dim light, and it suppresses magical light created by spells of 3rd level or lower. Importantly, it does not dispel the light spells, it just suppresses them, which means that once the Grasping Darkness ends, the light provided by that magic is restored. On top of that though, each creature of your choice within that massive area is subjected to a strength saving throw. On a failed save, they take damage equal to 1d6 plus your cleric level and become restrained. On a failure, they take half the damage only. This is really good. Sure, the damage is fairly low, but that isn't really the point. Having a mass restrain option in an enormous area can be incredibly powerful in the right circumstances. But not only that, it can potentially create an area of darkness which heavily obscures everything in the area, which functionally gives affected creatures the blinded condition. Provided, of course, that they don't have Dark Vision, Blind Sight, True Sight, or Tremor Sense, meaning they automatically fail any ability checks that rely on sight, and attacks against them are made at advantage, and their attacks have disadvantage. This, again, can be an incredibly powerful effect that has the potential to cripple a battlefield. The thing to remember, though, is that your party will also equally be affected by the darkness plaguing the battlefield, so it will be very important that your party has access to dark vision in some capacity, either through their species, their class, magic items, or spells. It's also worth noting that Grasping Darkness does require a use of your channel divinity, so it isn't exactly something that you're going to just be spamming out constantly. You'll need to consider when it's worth it to use it. Now, one of the huge benefits of doing this though, is that being in an area of dim light or darkness also allows you to enable some of your other class features, such as our level 6 feature, Umbral Casting. With Umbral Casting, when you cast a spell, you can cause some additional impact to anyone affected by the spell, provided they are in dim light or darkness. Two important points of clarification here. Firstly, you do not need to be in dim light or darkness. Only those affected by the spell need to be. This means that Grasping Darkness works very well with this. Secondly, this works on anyone affected by the spell and does not require them to be a target, which means that it does also work with area of effect spells like Fireball. So the four options are Bolster, which gives the creature advantage on all saves until the start of our next turn, Harm, which converts most damage types dealt by the spell into necrotic and has the amount increased by half our cleric level rounded down, Pierce, which imposes disadvantage on any saves made against the spell this turn, and Protect, which gives the creature resistance to all damage types except Force and Radiant until the start of our next turn. All of these options are cool, but what I especially love is just how versatile it is. It's not something you'll exclusively use on enemies, but something you could also use on your allies and can make for some very cool moments. You notice your party is getting a little bit low. You use Grasping Darkness to shroud your allies, as well as providing them some potential cover too, and then you use Protect on all of them. Or Harm can also help work around resistances. Some damage types like fire and poison are extremely commonly resisted, and this can help you to work around that. I am always a big fan of features that combine well with your other features, but they don't feel like you're always forced into using them in one specific way. Umbral Casting does not need to be used with Grasping Darkness, and even if you did, there's so many different ways it can be used that it doesn't feel so repetitive. And finally, at level 17, we get Avatar of Darkness. This capstone makes it so that whenever we cast a spell of 5th level or lower, while we are in dim light or darkness, the spell's effective level is increased by 1. So a level 3 spell would be treated as a level 4 spell, and a level 5 spell would be treated as a level 6 spell. This is a big deal and is actually very similar and kind of better than the new version of Twin Spell. Now, obviously, this has the immense limitation of being available to only clerics and only those of at least 17th level, but that's why I think this feels like a very fair feature to have for a character of this level. There is no limitation on what the upcasting looks like there is with Twin Spell, which requires the upcast to target another creature. This just works with any spell, regardless, provided it is at least level 5 or lower, which does not feel like a particularly steep restriction. That said, the more realistic restriction is the requirement of being in dim light or darkness. Now again, this is not necessarily that difficult to accomplish if you're playing in a dungeon, since that tends to be the lighting condition there anyway. But you also have plenty of ways of enabling it, whether it's through grasping darkness or just casting the darkness spell. It should be fairly easy to consistently achieve the correct circumstances to use your abilities. Overall, I really love this subclass. I have no idea how quote-unquote good it is. What I appreciate about it is the fact that it feels so cohesively designed, but nothing feels lost at the expense of that design. All too often we see subclasses and other things that sort of work together in one very specific kind of way, and that to me just isn't all that interesting. The Darkness Domain Cleric definitely fits a certain niche or a certain vibe, but you don't feel necessarily restricted to that. And by extension, another element of the subclass that I truly appreciate is that it doesn't just feel broken either. A lot of times, third-party content has a tendency to overcompensate and overcomplicate their designs and make things needlessly deep for no benefit, or make things ridiculously overpowered to entice you to want to play them, which ends up being the very thing that gets them banned at most tables. The Darkness Domain Cleric just doesn't do that at all. It feels fair and well thought out and well executed. And I should be clear that that holds true not just for the Darkness Cleric, but also for the other subclasses in this book too. I'm really looking forward to playing one of these in an upcoming game. So be sure to check out Delve if you have not already. I've left a link in the description and the comments below. Again, this is not a sponsored link, it does nothing for me, it's really just to help spread the word about this incredible product. Feel free to check out some of my other D&D videos, subscribe to help me hit 15k, but otherwise, take care.